Welcome back to Matter of Facts Podcast. My name's Phil. This is Nick. We're going to do admin work super quick because we got about 5 partial topics to hit, and we may or may not run out of time. We'll wait and see.
Yeah.
So, starting from the top, there's patrons in the chat. There's patrons in this chat. There's patrons all around. If you're not a patron, you should consider becoming one. You can contribute to the delinquency of, I'd say minors, but we're definitely majors at this point. But there's still contributing to the delinquency to be done. And code MOF at Disaster Coffee gets you a handful of % off if you would like to support a small business and three complete knuckleheads and get good coffee at the same time. Unfortunately, Nick and I don't have a bourbon sponsor, which at this point we probably should, because the name of the topic for the night is "We the People Are Pissed Off," and anytime we start talking about government malfeasance, it's usually fueled by bourbon.
Yeah. I mean, I do have a local distillery. The owners are cool. I don't know if they're that cool.
I mean, are they cool enough for some of the things we're going to talk about tonight? Because there is every likelihood that we're going to find a new government watch list to add our names to.
I mean, I showed up when they weren't open, and the owner let me in to sell me bourbon. And then we both went on a rant about, I think at the time it was people not wanting to go back to work after they cut off the COVID subsidies for unemployment.
I mean, that's like garden variety, though. I'm thinking like, when we start talking about crazy conspiracy theories and pedos nuking the world and all that stuff, will they be that kind of cool?
Well, yeah, I would guess yes. I would guess he would probably be cool with that. I'll have to talk to him about that and see if I can get him to mail you some bourbon.
I encourage you to grease the skids, even if he wants to come on the podcast under assumed identity and talk about bourbon. I mean, that sounds like a fun topic.
We could try and work that out. I'll see what I can do. My one of my good friend neighbors is his brother, so we could probably get a guy on for bourbon and cigars. I'll see what I can do.
That might be worth me moving to my laptop out on the porch or in the garage so I could actually smoke a cigar on the show.
I was thinking the same thing. We'll have to wait until it gets warmer because it was warmer today, but I think right now it's like 25.
I mean, it was 70 degrees today down here.
It got up to 40.
Well, that's a damn sight better than negative 40.
Yes.
Anyway, last but not least, merch at the Southern Gals and links in the show description. The Brandon family will appreciate if you make an order. And I personally am a big fan of some of the cheeky shirts we've made, like What Would Bert Do? That's always my favorite, though, because Bert Gummer is like a personal hero of mine.
Yeah, apparently I just got told it. I think it was a different brother of our neighbor that passed away. I think it was the brother in Michigan, though. I don't know. One of his brothers did pass away. Damn shame.
Well, sorry to hear that.
I still know the other owner because I go there to buy bourbon on the regular, and he's usually there.
That works.
Yeah, we try.
All right. So let's talk about what happened in the past week. I pissed off everyone for a start.
Wow. I don't know about everybody. I thought it was funny.
Well, okay. So let's just say that, like, for the three of y'all that are watching right now, we do have an Instagram account, and I do occasionally post shorts and everything. What were you counting?
Nothing. Just counting the people I know that are there in the comments.
But I post shorts and reels and everything to like try to help promote the podcast, occasionally memes and funny stuff. And I can always tell when I finally reach the limit of Meta's patience, when all of a sudden the graphs of engagement go and turn into horizontal lines.
It's amazing because you'll see, and we don't really look at the metrics. Not really. I don't look at them at all because, quite personally, I don't care. I like talking to you guys. Whether we reach, I don't know, however many people we do or more, whatever. The people that want to find us will find us. The people that don't won't. But it is amazing how much of a statistical anomaly those graphs become when you do show them to me.
And especially for the statistician that, like, literally, like, that was half of my college career was how to derive those metrics and graph things like that. When you have any graph and it's going up, 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 and then it knees over and flatlines, I'm like, that's usually an indication that there is some tomfoolery going on.
External forces, to be sure.
Yes.
And hey, maybe that is just the limit of your clips being enjoyable. But Trek was on some of those, and Trek's a very popular guy.
Yes. And those did much better than usual until they also flatlined. Although I couldn't help but notice that this time around, the moment at which they all flatlined was the minute I posted the short where we were talking about. You remember the conversation we had last week? Last week we were talking about how like the left is evolving. They're becoming more organized. They're indulging in communications and organization, and
that they're essentially acting like an insurgency.
Yeah, that was the reel that caused everything on the Instagram account to flatline all at the same time.
Can't say I'm surprised because the leftists generally run social media, at least Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah.
Not so much X anymore.
Let's just say that I've always said that the flak is thickest when you're directly over the target.
Mm-hmm.
And that continues
almost
to be true.
like the point is left-wing violence.
Yeah. Although I did get a chuckle about the couple of people that crawled into the comments that were just a Twitter about right-wing goons shooting people every week and y'all are fear-mongering over the left. And I was just like, wow, someone totally and completely missed the point.
Yep. Jeff does bring up a good point, though, with his preemptive disagreement. Jeff says he agrees with Trump's "why are we still talking about this?" I'm assuming it's in reference to the Epstein files, because nobody will do anything about it anyway, so all anyone will do is waste their breath. Well, when it comes to people victimizing children, I'm not going to shut up about it. I'm not going to shut up about it until every single one of them is imprisoned. I realize that I will probably die before that occurs.
Yeah. I will say this much, though. What year was it that Epstein allegedly hung himself in his jail cell?
I don't remember.
Are you still seeing the Epstein didn't kill himself meme left, right, center, and all over the place?
Oh, absolutely. So, that never went away.
Yeah. So while I understand Jeff's sentiment, and I don't disagree, because like you and I have had this conversation, the people that are indulging in these actions against children are so maliciously callous that they would sooner burn the world to ash than suffer a moment's inconvenience. Like, let's just call it what it is. These people don't have a moral compass. They just don't. They don't care.
No, I don't think they do. But you know what I've found incredibly interesting about this whole thing, Phil?
Let it rip.
I don't think I've told you this. Do you remember when Mel Gibson went on that rant years ago when he was spiraling with drugs and alcohol? And he went on that rant about how Hollywood is full of a bunch of evil people that cannibalize and rape children. And then Roseanne Barr did the same thing. And lo and behold, several of Ted Kaczynski's targets for his mail bombs have been communicating with Epstein for some of them 5 or 6 years, discussing the abuse of children and other minors.
And then more recently, you've got Cat Williams, who has like firebombed his entire career by coming out and saying that there's all these people that are trying to like compromise you sexually all throughout the entertainment industry. Like
funny how, you know, and I thought Mel Gibson was going nuts at the time. I thought Roseanne Barr was off her nut, because what kind of person wants to eat and assault a child? But I'll be damned.
Maybe it says something about like how twisted and jaded my perspective is at 43 years of life. But I've reached the point, Nick, where like that doesn't surprise me anymore that people will do that. It angers me, pisses me off. Every time I hear the sound clip play about Pam Bondi saying that, well, if we prosecute these people, it'll to overturn the system. And I'm like, your terms are acceptable, burn it all to the ground.
You know, I saw a meme on Instagram, and I think I sent it to you. The clip from Inglourious Bastards at the end, where
damn good deal.
I'll take that deal, because you know what? Those people need to be taught a lesson, and that lesson is that there are moral standards. and that the rest of us do hold them, and there's not enough of them to stop us from holding them to a moral standard.
Yeah. But all that being said, I do understand Jeff's sentiment.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand.
I fully expect that Jeff is correct.
Yeah.
I fully expect that Jeff is correct. And unfortunately, I think that the average person is not willing to be evil enough to punish these people appropriately.
And the few that are too few and far between still.
Yeah. Yeah. Because realistically, there is no way for us to legally punish these people because they are the legal process, it would seem. At the very least, they are in control of the legislative. Seems like the judicial. It's not looking great for the president. And it's really not looking great for any of the 3-letter government agencies. So then where do we go from here?
Well, and the part of the problem is also, like, even if you are not yourself compromised,
your complicity in not acting earlier compromises you.
Well, what I was going to say was, like, this is the same argument I used to have years and years ago about, like, Social Security. Like, most people have realized and understood and admitted to themselves Social Security is a straight Ponzi scheme. It is literally.
It was a Ponzi scheme from the beginning. Yeah, that's where the Ponzi got the idea.
But it is forcing those that work to pay the retirement wages of those that have retired, and that is, like, I understand the argument from people that are on it or are about to be on it, and they say, no, I worked all that time, that's my money. And I'm like, but really it isn't your money, and it never was. Like, you were paying for someone else to retire, and now you're about to retire expecting somebody else to pay for you. Like, we can have an argument about whether or not that's a good system, but it is the way it is.
Yeah. But
here's the problem. When you're 20 years old and you're just starting to work, you're almost sure to vote for, I would like to keep 6.2% of my gross and invest in myself. But if you are 65, that's a very, very different calculation to make. Use an individual. It's self-serving, but it's still worth acknowledging that you're asking that person who's 65, who's about to draw Social Security, who's paid into it for 30 or 40 working years, to grenade their entire retirement plan because it was,
or at least the vast majority of it for most
because
people.
It was built. Even if they have private retirement, even if they have a pension, even if they have a 401k, they still plan for those Social Security wages. And if you ask them to grenade the system, they're directly harming themselves. And that becomes kind of the same situation with all of this. The people who we need to stand on their back feet and say, listen, this is not okay. We got to prosecute these people, hold them accountable. Most of them, if they are not themselves compromised, they have so much to lose by upsetting the system. It's starting to eat into their calculations.
It does.
And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I am just saying that is, like, understandable why a person would say, ooh, I'm like 63 years old. I'm 2 years away from retirement. I got all this money tied up in the stock market and 401k. And if the whole system burns down tomorrow, I am a 63-year-old in the middle of, Mad Max. I understand. That's a scary thing.
It is. And, Jeff, I don't have a good answer to that. That is the only authority I have other than advocating for changes at the small political level in my local township, city, and state.
Yeah.
And honestly, at this point, it's going to take a grassroots effort. And I fucking hate that phrase because it is so goddamn meaningless anymore.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even most grassroots efforts are not that grassroots.
They're AstroTurf. 99% of them are AstroTurf. What we need to do is to, yes, Jeff, continue to point it out. Continue to say that this is atrocious. Continue to draw attention to every single person that's doing this, because you know what? Maybe they never actually see consequences. Maybe the only consequences we see is slightly more good people try to get into positions of authority where they attempt to do something about this. And and if Pam Bondi is correct that arresting everyone that is implicated by these files would collapse our system, that means we have to build a new system. Oh, it absolutely does. but that does mean we have to build something new. And that is
Yeah.
not going to be done today. That is not going to be done this year. That is not going to be done this decade. It will take a generational effort to change, unfortunately.
And to slightly push back against what Jeff's saying, like this is the analogy I always use. Nick, you've gone fishing before. You spent time in boats, right?
Yep.
What's the biggest boat you've ever had a hand, like the biggest boat you've ever had a hand in steering?
Honest, 20 foot.
Okay,
20 foot
boat.
aluminum fishing sport boat.
So if you're proceeding down the way, it's a 10 or 15 knots reasonable clip, and you pull on the till, does that fit? Does that boat make a right angle turn in the water, or does the rear end start to fishtail out and the boat slowly turns and changes its direction? Like, things happen gradually.
They do. I mean, with small boats, you can make them turn very quickly if you're willing to get a little bit dicey on things.
But what about large boats?
Large boats, they do not turn.
Okay.
They
So
do
the
not turn
analogy I
quickly
always
at all.
use with people is this boat, this system, this country,
Massive.
this whatever is gigantic, and it is plodding along and has a lot of momentum.
It
This
does.
thing does not turn because one person pulls on the till. This thing turns because everyone slowly, stubbornly holds the till until the boat changes directions.
And
So this
that
is
is
why
what was being done with Epstein didn't kill himself.
Yeah.
That was what was being done with everybody continuing to push on social media. If people had let it go, do you think the administration would have released these documents? Hell no, they wouldn't have.
But that is the greatest argument I've always given towards, like, for all of the crap that social media has unleashed on our society. And I am still on the fence about whether or not social media was a net positive or not. You do have to say that because it decentralized the voice to the people, not of the people, but the voice to the people, it allowed any one person with a good argument and a good speaking voice to platform themselves and speak what they thought was truth or speak their opinion. And because of that, we have tens of thousands of people out there, and a proportion of them think the way you and I do, and we're going to continue to stubbornly hold our hand on the till until the boat turns or not.
Yep.
Because that's how you turn the boat.
Exactly. If you let up, it's just going to go back to its previous course.
Yeah. And that's not to say that we might be totally wrong. This boat may not turn. It might capsize for all we know.
It could.
All I know is,
you know what? It seems like it deserves it.
Yeah. But all I know is, like, me personally, I'll keep my hand on the till and keep pulling, because that's what this show's always been about, is trying to advocate for people to make changes in their lives that I think ultimately are in their best interest.
Yep.
Take it or leave it.
Well, that is why I agreed to come on this show. Because I think that what you are trying to do is try to give people some tools, or at least a place to look for the tools that can help them.
I mean, that's the goal.
Yeah.
All right. Other than pissing off lefties and the Epstein list, apparently I also stumbled into an argument on Rebel Raiders' Instagram account of all places.
His Instagram account is the best.
Okay, but here's the wacky part. Like, okay, Rebel, in the name of full disclosure, and he doesn't make a state secret of this, like, it's not hard to figure out. He's a former Marine.
Yeah.
He's got experience with bang shooty stuff.
Mm-hmm.
From what I can tell from, like, I don't stalk his Instagram account anymore. I do anybody else I follow, but, like, I get the impression a substantial portion of his viewership is also either military veterans, guys that train, guys that know stuff.
They're either guys like me that are very personally interested in firearms and self-defense, or people that have lived the life.
Yeah,
it seems.
I mean, they're guys that have done the thing, or guys that have done the thing.
Right. At least the training thing.
Yeah. But that's what I guess what I mean. It's like, it's got most of the people that are into his content, and most of the people that are purchasing his gear, from what I can tell, are guys and maybe girls that have done the thing, either with or without a DOD orders. It's really or I guess it's DOW now, Department of War. Anyway,
honestly, you know what? Since I brought it up,
Phil,
Do you think Department of War is a better name for it?
I honestly have not given like a moment's. I haven't given a moment's thought to it.
I
But
have.
since you bring it up, I don't have an issue with the phrase Department of War because to me, war is not an exclusively offensive action, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like whether it's war on my soil to defend myself or war on foreign soil doesn't matter to me. The only thing that matters to me is that we're not deploying our soldiers in search of foreign monsters to slay.
You know, I think Department of War is a better name for it because it gives a connotation to every action that department takes. And I think that serious connotation of it is an act of war when the Department of War does things, which a lot of times it is. They can call it a policing action or whatever they want. But look, when you go, as much as I applauded the seizing of the most recent dictator and its excellent execution, which, my God, perfect. I'm convinced blowing up the remains of Hugo Chavez, I'm convinced that was an Air Force guy that was going, watch this, and just lit one off because he could and he was there. That is an act of war.
Yeah.
They blew up a lot of shit in a sovereign foreign nation and kidnapped their leader. That's an act of war.
Yep.
That has connotations. Now, granted, they are small enough and an impotent enough force that they're a non-threat to us. But I think that name is important. Department of Defense was designed as a naming scheme to make it less threatening.
Oh, Dr. Scary Guy just dropped it on us. He's only around for 5 minutes. Can I condense the whole show into that?
We're looking for a bourbon sponsor. If you know someone, my God, it would help.
We're looking for a bourbon sponsor. Epstein didn't kill himself. Everyone on the Epstein list eats children. They should all hang. Let's see what else. We're presently about to talk about how body armor does not make you RoboCop, contrary to what the internet will tell you. And later on, we're going to talk about how Idaho Supreme Court said that school choice is a thing and people can get over it if they don't like it, and how California is hopefully about to get their ass handed to them in court for being California.
I would be shocked if they didn't, because they're essentially violating existing Supreme Court precedents.
Save it for later. We just need to give Dr. Scary Guy the download.
Yes.
But Dr. Scary Guy, the cool part about streaming this on YouTube is that it's going to be here afterwards. So you can come back later when you have time and listen to the whole thing.
This is true.
Especially like in about half an hour when this whiskey hits, and I'm probably going to start screaming and yelling about things, but you know.
Oh, damn. Jeff does make a good point, though. The Dow is up. Which Dow?
Both. All of them. Yes.
All of them? I guess when the Dow is up, the Dow is also up.
Yeah.
Yes. Because the stocks market seems to do really well every time we blow up shit in a random foreign country.
Oh, Ivan the Troll and Matt. I can't pronounce that.
I can't either because it's partially French, and I usually don't agree with the French, but
I mean,
there are methods of dealing with their dissident rulers as quite thorough.
Yes. It is worth pointing out, though, that every time a discussion about the French comes up, you have to bear in mind that the less cooperative, more surly French all ended up here.
They did. Married to prostitutes, which,
yes.
Hey, I get it.
Well, I mean, you know, sometimes you like an LA with some experience.
And a work ethic.
Very important. Poor farmers and prostitutes apparently makes for a good population plan.
Hey, man, can you think of two people that work harder?
Holy Jesus. We're going to have to clip that for later.
You're welcome.
Anyway, so yeah, like I was saying earlier, body armor does not make you RoboCop. I didn't think this would be a controversial statement, but I stumbled into the one autistic knucklehead in Rebels chat that was convinced that like the trauma pads underneath the plates made all the force go away.
They help a little bit.
And see,
A little bit.
okay, so my what I tried to explain, and then I stopped explaining because you know how
you have things to do in the real world.
But you know how I always say you should never play chess with a pigeon?
Mm-hmm.
And why is that, Nick?
Because they will knock over the pieces, shit on the board, and strut around like they won.
Exactly. So when I get to a certain point on social media, and if any of y'all have ever seen social media posts or matter of facts, I will reach a point very quickly where I just go radio silent because it's like, you're a pigeon. I'm not playing chess with you. You do whatever you're going to do. Have fun. Act like you won the argument. I'm done. I'm checked out. And that's where I got very quickly with this bunch because what I was trying to explain was if, you know, because like now admittedly Rebel very tongue-in-cheek was saying like, you know, what body armor do you need if like so you're going to take 4 rounds of 30-06 AP? Yes,
ideally a sand embankment to hide behind.
For the audio listeners, Nick's eyes just got gigantic.
Well, because I have taken for example those M2 AP pulls, and I have fired them out of a 30-06 at level 4 body armor. And it stopped them. It did. It broke the wooden frame that we used to set up on that. And then I took them and I loaded them in a 300 Win Mag case to max Sammy spec and potentially a little bit beyond.
And then
it went through both plates. In one round. But granted, the velocity was much higher than that bullet is normally rated for. We were shooting at 200 yards because we were concerned about little ricochets coming back. Yeah, because we were shooting at a gravel pit. There were some rocks and stuff behind it, so we were at 200 yards. But it did blow through both level 4 plates, and I got my gun dealer to look at me and say, Jesus, dude, what the hell did you make?
Well, that's what happens when you load those rounds up to mock fuck.
Yep. By the way, I will probably be needing a new 300 Win Mag barrel because I've shot the rifling out of the first like inch and a half of it already.
That's an issue with 300 Win Mag.
It is. So I'm thinking like, do I, and I realize this is incredibly off topic, do I sell the 300 Win Mag or do I wildcat it down to 6.5 and see how fast I can get that bullet to go? So a 300 Win Mag cartridge, neck down to 6.5. And just see if I can make it into a laser. I know this is dumb and completely useless.
Is 6.5 Win Mag a thing? Like,
I don't know, but I just had that idea fueled by my second glass of whiskey.
Okay, this is why we need whiskey on the shows to create the bad ideas.
I'm gonna have to look up and find out if 6.5 Win Mag is a thing.
You know,
if it is, I might be able to buy a barrel, and that would make it really easy.
But you know, if it's not a thing,
we kind of have to.
I'm sure there's a barrel shop out there that can make you one, and if you contact your reloading provider of choice and explain what crazy fucking idea you just came up with, I'm pretty sure they could figure out how to help you out.
I mean,
you might now what you might have to do though,
skill set to make a 6.5 Win Mag barrel out of a 6.5 blank.
Well, and the thing of it is that if you can make the barrel, then you could chamber cast it and then use that chamber cast to make your own dies.
Yeah.
I mean, because rifle dies are just steel. They're not carbide.
Well, you can get carbide rifle dies now.
Time out. I understand that, but you and I both know that's not going to happen. So my point is that
they will if I'm making one. I mean, if I'm making it anyway, and I'm going to go through the effort of diamond polishing all the interior, I'm gonna do it out of carbide.
Yeah, but the point thing of it is that even with carbide rifle, that like you still have to lube your cases.
You do have to
the
lube
pressure
the cases.
Involved.
I mean, you're gonna have to fire form them anyway. It's gonna be a whole big thing, but it could be fun.
I don't think Rachel understands how this calculation works. She's asking, do you sell the firearm and get a boat?
Yeah, well, you know, I do want a boat. I have wanted a boat for a long time. I need to build another garage to put the boat in. So
you need to sell a gun to build the garage and sell a gun to buy the boat.
No, because the cost of the concrete alone is like 3 or 4 times what selling the boat money would be, or selling the rifle money would be, even with the optic. Yeah, no, that math doesn't math.
Mm.
I might sell them just to clear room in my safe for another weird project that comes across me, but
I
because I'm
mean,
just done with them. But I've just had the idea to make a wildcat.
6.5 Win Mag.
Honestly, I'm
Six
sure
six
it
five
exists.
6.5 MOF.
You could. I'm sure it's got to exist. It'll probably be like a 7 mil Win Mag or a 6 mil Win Mag that somebody made using old Swedish bullet pulls or something like that. Because I know I have seen 25-06 and 22-06.
Mm-hmm.
So I gotta believe somebody's done it with a 300 Win Mag before, or a 300 Weatherby, one of the two.
Possible. That might require that might make for a fun show to do some research and come back to see what crazy shit is out there that most people don't realize about guns.
I will call the guy one of the guys that I apprenticed under. He is an old school tool maker that did a lot of gunsmithing on the side, was a big fan of antique firearms and wildcatting. So I'll call him. He'll know for sure off the top of his head who made it and possibly reloading recipes.
Jesus. I will dig in the back of my memory banks. There's actually a computer program that, for the kind of thing you're talking about doing, there's a computer program that helps you predict pressure curves and everything based on like case volume and burn rate, so on and so forth. You probably know off the top of your head what it is. I'm just drawing a blank on what it's called because, there's about that much bourbon in me at this point.
Right. I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah, it'll come to me later. But anyway, yeah, body armor doesn't make you RoboCop. Ribs still bruise and break. Internal organs get very annoyed when you smack them with several thousand foot-pounds of energy, even if it's just dispersed over an area. Because, like, I was trying to explain to this guy, I'm like, you don't understand. Getting shot by a 30-06, even if the plate stops it, is still like getting hit in the ribs with a sledgehammer. Like, it's going to hurt. You're going to be out of breath. Your shit's going to be all bruised up. Your internal organs might be unhappy with you. You might live, but you are also probably going to be out of the fight. And I don't know how to get that across to people that have never worn body armor in a theater. But like we were told explicitly in combat that if your buddy gets shot, unless he hops right back up, consider him out of the fight.
Yeah.
Because reasonable. If he's got a broken rib, I mean, yeah, he can still fight his way out of harm's way, but he's not going to be...
He's not going to be combat effective.
No, it is... At that point, his only goal is to get off the X, back to the vehicle, get back to the rear, and like he's going to need a day or two to heal up. And I just don't know how to get that across to guys who've never worn body armor operationally. Like, armor can save you. It can stop you from getting perforated. It does not make you RoboCop. It doesn't make the force go away. Like, even the trauma pads is just going to spread it out, but the force has to go someplace, and that someplace is this squishy little meat bag you call a body.
So, Phil, have you heard the term backface deformation?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so for those of you in the audience that have not, backface deformation is how much the back of the plate does this and punches out into your rib cage when it is hit by a round of whatever size.
Hence, sledgehammer to the rib cage.
Right. Now, that deformation is going to occur in the time it takes a bullet to hit your plate and stop, which is usually very, very small fractions of a second. So it is like being hit with a piece of wood, with a baseball bat, with a sledgehammer, depending on the caliber. I'm going to look up what backface deformation is considered acceptable for level 4 plates. Just give me a second.
Well, I can save you some searching. It doesn't matter what plates. Backforce deformation, allowable backforce deformation is a set amount because that's the amount that is predicted that the human body could sustain without serious injury. And by serious injury, I mean like life-threatening. Like you're still gonna be hurt. You're going to question your life decisions, but you'll live through it. And that amount, the amount of armor and the amount of things it takes to decrease the back force deformation changes depending on how much force goes into it. But the maximum allowable back force deformation is what it is, because that's the human body is on the other side of that.
Yeah, I was just trying to find out what that maximum back face deformation was.
I do not recall off the
It's
top of my
not
head.
it's not coming up on a quick search. If I would have thought about this ahead of time, I would have grabbed it. But if you ever watch those armor reviews where they shoot a block of clay, you'll see a crater in that block of clay, even if the round was fully captured.
Yeah. And even if, let's say you wind up with one of the, like, let's say you can make armor out of like adamantium and it will not bend at all. So the back force deformation is 0 because there is no crater. That's still going to, all that energy has to press up against your body. And I see a guy that comments saying trauma pads. Well, the trauma pads are only that thick and they can only absorb so much force. The force still has to go to you. So, and like Nick and I were talking about this earlier, and he pointed out, and I admit, yes, if you're talking about modern ceramic plates, the act of the ceramic disintegrating around the bullet does take some of the energy away. But the energy doesn't disappear. And that energy still causes injury, and it still can cause internal injuries.
Yeah, assuming your plates deform 0, you're still absorbing the full muzzle energy of that bullet. It's just over a larger area.
Yeah,
and it's the small area of a bullet that allows it to penetrate.
Yeah, so it's one of those situations where I didn't try to piss off the entire internet. I was just trying to make what I thought was a reasonably non-controversial statement about body armor doesn't make you RoboCop, and a couple of people were like, I don't understand how that works. And I was just like, tried to explain it, didn't succeed. It is what it is.
I mean, there was a pretty good picture that illustrated this out of Ukraine. Guy was shot with, I believe it was 7.62 by 54R armor piercing in the level 4 plate in the
that's
in
a 30
upper
odd
right
6
quadrant.
That's a 30 odd 6 for you non-com block boys.
Yeah, and it broke 3 ribs and caused internal bleeding in his lungs, without the ribs perforating his lung. And
yes, that's
if
just
I recall correctly, he was out of the fight for weeks to months.
Well, yeah, I mean, that hurts.
Broken ribs take a long time to heal, man.
Yeah. So anyway, like, I didn't set off to piss off the whole internet. I just was trying to provide a little context. I was trying to provide a little bit of context to Rebel's humorous prompt. And I don't know. Somebody's feels overrode their common sense, I guess.
Guy's right. The bro got off with barely a scratch. He did. And barely a scratch being 3 broken ribs, internal bleeding. It still sucks a lot. I don't know if any of you guys have broken ribs, but it takes a forever long time to heal, and they hurt the entire time.
No, armor is not there to make you impervious. Armor is there to make sure you live through the engagement and gain the experience to hopefully not get shot next time.
Yep.
It's there to reduce the casualty count. It is not there to reduce the injury count. If anything, that's one of the weird things that's come. That's one of the weird things we talk about in military circles is that the number of, so not raw numbers, because there's less infantry being fielded with a lot of modern engagements versus older engagements. But if you trend every engagement that the U.S. military has been involved in since the Revolutionary War, by the way, every single engagement, if you plot them all and you look at the percentage of soldiers fielded to the number that were KIA or wounded in action, if you look at the Revolutionary War, KIA was through the ceiling, wounded action was fairly minimal, because at that point, if you got wounded, you were probably going to die. And then every engagement, those numbers did this. And now in modern engagements, the KIA percentage-wise is actually extremely low, and the wounded in action is much higher than it used to be. But that's because people are surviving things that used to kill them.
Yep. Our medical care is phenomenal.
Yeah, like taking 4, 5, 7, 6 by 39 to the chest. If you're wearing armor, you're probably going to live through it. But even as late as Vietnam, 4 or 5 intermediate cartridges to the chest, you're going to see Jesus that afternoon.
Very likely.
Yeah, I mean, maybe even as late as Desert Storm. I mean, you and I've talked about how armor has undergone these generational improvements like every 5 years since
Even
1990.
even in early GWAT, the medical care difference from early GWAT to late GWAT is just insane. The difference in survivability.
So I do see Jeff's comment here, and I have to correct one thing. The impact is the same as a rifle's kick. No. The force is the same because physics works that way. Force going this way, equal and opposite reaction, so on and so forth. That was another thing that got discussed in this comment section that I'm pointing out. Somebody was making the comment like, well, it's not like when you shoot a 7.62 by 39 that it knocks you over onto your back. You know, it's not that much force. But here's the thing of it. The butt plate is this big. The tip of the bullet is this big. So the force is the same, but the impact is different because it's spread out over a larger footprint.
Yes.
And that may seem like a minor thing, but when you look at the surface area of the tip of a bullet compared to the surface area of your butt plate, you're talking about hundreds of times difference.
Think about it like hydraulic PSI.
Yep.
If
Pounds
you have,
of pressure per square inch.
Right. If you have 100 PSI over a large area, not as bad as 100 PSI in a smaller diameter. It's just,
Well, actually, oh, Nick, you're the machinist. And I hate to scream with you about
did
this.
I explain that wrong?
You did. So
I
here's
did have
the trick.
2 bourbons.
I've only had one, so I might succeed at this. So if you have 100 pounds of force,
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say.
You spread it out over 100 inches. That's
then
one
you have
PSI.
1 PSI. Yep.
100 pounds of force over 1 inch is 100 PSI.
Right.
100 pounds of force over a tenth of an inch is now 1,000 PSI. And you see how concentrating the same amount of force, the same downward force, weight
brained that
onto that smaller and smaller and smaller area ramps up the pressure dramatically. And that's why bullets do such bad things when they hit body armor, but the rifle that's pushing against your body doesn't hurt you that bad because it's that amount of force in this amount of area.
And if you look at the back force deformation tests, the area is actually quite small. It's like golf ball size where you see that crater. Yeah. So it's still 3 or 4 times smaller than the rifle butt plate.
And even that's deceiving because if you look at the total surface area of the bullet, that's all that. Even if you look at the total surface area of the bullet after it's mushroomed, that is what is dictating how much PSI gets delivered. When you look at the back force deformation, that is the material of the plate
that's
being
displaced.
Yeah. So it's a complex physics lesson, but the point is that if you take a round to your plate, your life's going to suck no matter what.
Yeah, you are probably going to be injured at the very least. I mean, obviously it's going to depend on the energy left in the round when it impacts, the angle of impact, how sturdy you are standing up.
The nerd shit.
Yeah, there's a lot of minutiae to it. Yeah, some guys get shot and they walk it off. I'm not betting on that.
All right. Now, 2 topics that have nothing to do with pissing off people on the internet, but they do have something to do with government shenanigans. School choice wins. So if anybody's curious, there's a QR code right up here that you can hold your phone over and you can navigate to an article that talks about how the Idaho Supreme Court unanimously rejected a constitutional challenge to Idaho's school choice tax credit because somebody got this brilliant idea that the public school system should have a monopoly on educating children enforced by the judicial system.
I want to blame the school teachers union.
Well, blaming the teachers union is usually a pretty safe bet. The part of this that annoys me is like what, Nick, what kind of a freaking sociopath do you have to be to even bring this suit in front of the court to say that we should force children to stay in a school that's potentially worse than the one we want to send them to?
The kind of person that's attempting to indoctrinate children into some kind of socialist death cult.
Thanks, Nick. I know it could depend on you.
You're welcome. I live to disappoint.
No, but seriously, like, I am. Wait a second. Raggle was saying wrong side. Okay,
You did
it's
point. It was over there. I did the thing for you.
so
Pretty
in
sure
the
I
name
pointed
of
the right
in
spot.
the name of full disclosure, I have reversed my camera because for some reason my brain does this weird thing. If I lift my left hand and I see like my left hand on the screen do something, it messes with my brain. So I've reversed my
That's fair.
camera so it works like a mirror. But I have to remind myself that when I point here, I'm actually pointing over here. And over there is where the QR code is. Or actually right here is where the QR code is.
Yes,
Raggle, you can tell me if I got that right or not. I don't
it's
know.
pretty close.
I'm moderately inebriated, so we'll go with that. I'll probably screw it up in 5 minutes anyway.
It's fine.
But in any case, I just have to say, I'm overjoyed that there was a moment of common sense employed in the judicial branch in a state. I'm so freaking glad that school choice won this battle and told the teachers unions to stuff it. I still get annoyed at the fact that this took a court ruling to tell the government to piss off. You don't get to lock these kids in the school you deem that they should be in. Like, that's just stupid.
Well, Phil, if we didn't have the government forcing the kids to go to the crappy schools, there'd be no kids at the crappy schools for the school district to funnel money through so that the Chicago Teachers Union can have a mansion with a pool for them to hold their meetings where the school district superintendent's mistress lives full time. I'm sorry, is that just Chicago Teachers Union? Oh yeah, that's right, it is.
No, we could talk about Louisiana teachers unions where the president of the school the president of the school board, I want to say, makes like $180,000 a year plus a car allowance plus Christ knows what. It's basically a part-time job, and based I can tell, he got the job by nepotism.
Yeah,
I'm not convinced he's functionally literate.
Well, then he's doing about as well as Chicago's graduating class. I think last time they checked it, it was like a 22% literacy rate for high school graduates in Chicago.
Well, while we're on that subject, my parish's school system used to be either first or second in the state. When I graduated from St. Tammany Parish Schools, we were like trading back and forth first and second in the parish in the state. People moved to this area specifically because of the public school system and how good it was. And I understand it's kind of a joke. Louisiana and Mississippi are like trading places for 49th and 50th in the country. I get it.
But well, there's a lot of impoverished areas, which really drives down school scores.
And St. Tammany Parish was kind of a very noteworthy exception to that rule.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of middle class, a lot of middle class, a lot of upper middle class, a lot of upper class, a lot of money spent in the school district, so on and so forth. A lot of
tax base.
And yet, the school district is now so bad. Last I heard, I think we were 13th or 18th in the state. My wife and I spend college tuition money to send our kid to the best private school in the area. I will friggin' sell my kidneys to keep her there. I will sell my booty on the street corner if necessary. I will do whatever I have to do to make sure my daughter gets the education she deserves. It doesn't have to go back into this public school system because it is run by idiots.
And honestly, I think it's been purposefully made worse.
I'll be honest with you, bud. I don't know if it's purposeful or not, but it has been so bad. You and I don't often
quote the Bible, but judge a tree by the fruits, I think is something from the Bible. You will judge a tree by its fruits, or judge a plant by its fruits. I mean, if all that you've ever done, if all that the school districts have done in my living memory is getting worse, then to me, the intention must be to make it worse. Because I go to work every day intending to make stuff out of steel, and every day I have made something out of steel. Like, I get it right way more often than I get it wrong.
So I have to put up guy that comments comment because it's pretty much what I was about to say. He said, change it from the inside. You need to own at least 10 guns to be ATF.
Incorrect. You need to own alcohol, tobacco, and firearms.
I've got all that. Matter of fact, there's tobacco on the back shelf. But
I'm
anyway,
just saying, it's in the name. Alcohol, tobacco, firearms. Hey, if they want to make it BATFD or whatever, gotta have drugs too. Fun.
So, you and I have talked before about how incredibly disinterested I am in running for public office, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it is. I do not want to be involved in anything that's slimy. I don't want to be involved in politics. I absolutely abhor the idea that I would have to talk to the media. I
Your
want,
talks with the media would be very short.
they would be interesting. But anyway, I have no want at all to run for public office ever in any capacity anywhere. I am much happier as an angry little social media dissident. However, there was a moment where I was so freaking disgusted at this school district and so disgusted at the school board and the president and all the way down the board.
Mm-hmm.
I actually talked to my wife about whether or not I should run. I was that angry and frustrated. I was finally like, you know what? Screw
that
it.
is the solution.
The worst that can happen is nobody votes for me. And the best that can happen is I actually by some miracle get elected and don't get shot.
Well,
And then I get to overturn the entire
people are
system.
shot while being in the school board, so I think you're fine there. Mayors get shot at sometimes.
Nick, have you met me?
Yeah, you own body armor. It's fine.
Do you have any? You have to acknowledge how polarizing of a figure I am, regardless of where it is I am.
That's fine. I mean, look, if we want to see
then
actual change in the system,
one nutcase in Illinois will vote for me. I doubt anybody else would.
I mean, I wouldn't vote for you because I don't violate voting laws and I don't live in your parish. But no, look, here's the thing of it is some of us are going to have to. Some of us who hate the idea of this are going to have to because they're less likely to be bought by the scum.
That's the hard part I keep butting up against, though, is like,
honestly, local politics is the best place to start making a change because that's where you're going to have the biggest impact.
And I admit, like, it's still something I flirt with every now and then. I really don't want to do it just because of the amount of crap I've going on in my personal life and, like, the number of things I'm already responsible for that don't involve being in public office and that amount of scrutiny. Mm-hmm. But on the flip side of things, I think to myself, I'm like, can I actually do some good? Or would I just be like an angry little dissident kicking over everybody's anthill and then nothing changes because it's too far gone?
My grandfather was on the town I grew up in's city council. He obstructed
that conversation. I'm going to be back in 1 second. You talk to the listeners.
Go for it. He obstructed a number of plans by a few of our city fathers and a few of the big families in town. And essentially what occurred as a result of that was they sidelined him. He was the only person that said no out of I think it was at the time a 9-person city council. Unfortunately, that meant he didn't make any difference, except for the fact that he delayed stuff. He delayed some of their bad decisions until it got to a point where they had to restart the process. And in having to restart the process, it would have cost more money for the people that were bidding on these various projects and stuff. So pulled out, and it got a few of the projects canceled. That would have really not been good for the city or good for the taxpayers because they were horribly wasteful. So, I mean, yes, one person on a council, one person on a board, one person on a school board or anything like that. Yeah, you might not actually make any change, but at the very least you can make them stall long enough that it costs them too much money to continue the project later. Now, he got sidelined, like I said, and he was the odd man out. He was the only one that wasn't in favor of this, but these expenses were so large, the city council had to have a unanimous vote.
So yeah, Jeff raises the point. The FBI investigated the parents that were mad over trans literature. You think they wouldn't try to get Phil if he got on the school board? I will
They're
just
probably
say,
investigating Phil already.
I mean, I will just say that like what really prompted most of this was the fact that at the time, this was during COVID, And I may or may not have had a very strong objection to remote learning in very young age groups where statistically it doesn't freaking work.
Gee, I wonder.
And I was very annoyed about the fact that kids were, in my opinion, being abused by being forced to submit to the bull crap that was going on in the public school system. And I was just angry enough to actually run for office strictly so I could be a pain in their ass about it at every available turn.
That's what's needed sometimes. Sometimes you
Well,
need that person to be the Naismith, to say, this is stupid. This is a waste of money. This is a waste of time. This is not helping anyone. Because at the very least, Phil, you as the member of that board are a voice of authority in the meeting. It's not just random citizen screams at cloud. It's school board member says this is a terrible idea.
yeah,
You know, I hate the appeal to authority, but
it does work.
Does work on some people, and maybe that's what you need.
Yeah. Anyway, I have not felt the need to join the school board since that brief moment. I moved on
because
to
you're paying a small fortune to not have to.
And let me just say, Eddie and I had this debate about like public schooling versus private schooling, and his concern, which fair concern at the time, was if you we were talking in the vein of like destroy public school completely, all school is private. And his concern was if you do that, then schooling becomes the privilege of the rich. Because if you can't afford the service, you don't get the service. And my point of view was, from the business guy's perspective, there's in my local area, grocery stores, there's Walmart and there's Rouse's. Walmart caters to a lower priced product to the clientele that can afford it, and Rouse's is more of a higher end grocery store. Or if you want to go higher end than that, there's Aquistapace's, which I know it's a mouthful, but the really fancy stuff is at Aquistapace. But anyway, but those businesses serve different segments of the market because anytime there's a big enough gap in the market, someone's going to jump and fill it. So my point of view was, if all school is privatized, you're going to have private schools that service people of limited means and private schools that service people of greater means, and everything in the middle. They're going to have to compete against each other, and competition drives prices down and service up. That's how it works. We could never really come to a happy middle ground between the two of us. Like, he and I just have different perspectives. But I will say that in this local area, even when they were competing against some of the best public schools in the state, and they no longer are, there were still several very good private schools in this area. And those private schools have done nothing but grow over the years. So despite the fact that at the time they were competing against very good public schools, and now they're competing against very crappy public schools, these private schools are all over the place, and they all offer a great product. And they are doing nothing but adding to the rolls, even if it costs 10 to 15 grand a year in tuition cost.
Yeah. I personally think that when you do not have an incentive to success for, say, the teachers, for the school, when you have a guaranteed system of funding that does not at all rely on your results, you do not have an incentive to do well as a teacher or as a school. I mean,
kind of like government.
Yeah, if there is no failure state, then what are we doing here? Then you're just going to do whatever the hell you want, and there's no consequences.
Yeah. So anyway, on to our last topic. California goes full California about 3D printed guns.
I think New York is about to do the same thing with 3D printers.
Yes, but I wasn't prepared for that topic because that just spun up today, I think, wasn't it? Or was it yesterday?
I saw the talk about it starting on Monday, but I think they did vote on that today or yesterday, and I believe it passed in New York, which, whoop-de-doo, your 3D printer can't be sold in the state of New York unless it has software to detect whether or not you're printing a gun. What are they going to do?
Oh, no.
Base it on shape?
I mean, yeah, I think ultimately that's what they're going to do, but
Great. So you can't print L-shaped objects on your
it's
3D printer.
it's New York. They just elected a Democratic socialist to be the mayor of New York City.
Well,
I don't know that I any longer acknowledge that New York is a real place.
no,
It is
it's a real place. It's just not a
no,
serious place.
it is not a real place.
It is a silly place.
it is composed of memes and filled with nonsense.
Yeah. But I do believe they are regretting the socialist mayor because I see nothing but people shitting on him for not getting any of the things done that he promised because he didn't have the power to do them even if elected.
They don't regret their decisions enough yet because there's not a guillotine in front of City Hall. In
Well,
Minecraft,
there's not a recall vote because I do believe you can recall mayors.
with a guillotine.
Well, I don't like to
The
advocate for
I'm not advocating anything. I'm just saying
guillotining things.
that my French ancestors did have some spicy extra legal ways of dealing with dissident rulers. Isn't that how you put it?
French carpentry is an excellent way to remove monarchies. It is.
Yes. Anyway, so thank you, Raggle. I'll remember to use my right hand to point at this, even though it makes my ADHD go absolutely nuts because there is no QR code above my hand right now. But I'm just going to pretend. But I'm going to pretend it's there. So that QR code goes to the article we're talking about. California goes full California. So California, in their infinite wisdom, has decided that the absolute most important issue facing them as a state right now is the fact that people can download files in the state of California and print things they're not supposed to have, according to the state of California, despite the fact that the Second Amendment is a thing.
And despite the fact that the Supreme Court has ruled that possession of these files is a First Amendment right and is not infringible.
Yep. So the long and the short of it is Rob Bonta and David Chu have launched a new legal assault on free speech and the right to keep and bear arms, filing a complaint on February 6, 2026 in San Francisco Superior Court against the Gatalog Foundation, Control Pew LLC, and individuals Alexander Holliday, Matt LaRosier, and John Illick. Suit targets the distribution of digital files, the computer code, and instructions for 3D printing firearms and certain firearms accessories, claiming violations of California Civil Code sections, blah, 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 blah. So let's talk about this for a minute. The above and beyond the simple fact that I am one of the Second Amendment faithful, and I kind of think anytime the government says thou shalt not, that's just an invitation for me to go out and get a 3D printer because fuck you, I'll do whatever the hell I please. Mm-hmm. The part of this that aggravates me the worst, believe it or not, is not the fact that it infringes upon the Second Amendment. That's a given. The part that pisses me off the worst is the fact that California, these doddering old boomer bastards, these freaking Gen X retards, are actually trying to friggin' enforce California state law on the freaking internet. There's nothing, Nick, that says to me more clearly than these people are freaking stupid than the fact they are trying to enforce state law on the freaking internet. It aggravates me that we that grew up in the digital age have to explain things that are simple to us to idiots who didn't grow up with the internet and try to explain to them how, first of all, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. You can't ban anything that's on the internet, and you can't prevent your people who have access to the internet from having access to the thing on the internet. It cannot be done.
It is, number one, they've violated the Streisand law.
Okay.
Do not call attention to something you want removed from the internet.
You have to explain what the Streisand effect is. It's a beautiful thing, by the way, but you have to explain it now.
Barbara Streisand was upset about people posting pictures of her house on the internet.
And
then everyone started posting that picture everywhere in every possible location, making it more well known than it was on the one tiny board that it had been on.
But more than that, a lot of people didn't realize that was Barbara Streisand's home until she admitted it was by trying to get the pictures removed.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the thing, like, okay, this is the reason why when the Liberty pistol was very first released. I'm dating myself. I know that was a hot minute ago. I still to this day do not own a 3D printer because I need another piece of equipment and another hobby in this house. Like I need a hole in the head. But I'll be damned if I didn't run out and download copies of that file and bury it on a couple of thumb drives and a couple of other places because I was convinced it was going to get banned off the internet. It was going to get taken down some kind of way. And I thought to myself at that time, as a person without a 3D printer, I'm like, this is the goofiest bullcrap on earth. It is barely a pistol in name only. But the simple fact that governments around the world will try to scrub it from the internet means I want a copy of it. If for no other reason than I load it onto 1,000 thumb drives and freaking snail mail it around the world to people.
See,
because once something goes on the internet, it can never come off the internet. We know this.
That's true. It's the Liberator pistol isn't a functional pistol. It is. But what I mean when I say that is the Liberator pistol is a proof of concept of a greater theory that has been borne out by Gatalog and by Control Pew. That you can make damn near any modern semi-automatic firearm with a 3D printer and a few metal components. They took the pipe shotgun and the PA Ludi submachine gun and said, you know what? We're making 3D printed Uzis and 3D printed FALs. And you know what? They work pretty damn well.
But
you know, the Jeff, even as EDM probe for rifling. Jeff, does yours use the 12-volt car battery or does it use the 12-volt car battery charger? Just curious. I've seen both ways.
But I guess my thing, Nick, is like I admit everything you're saying is true. The Liberator is a goofy thing. But to me, it wasn't about the Liberator itself.
No,
it was simply
about the message.
It was simply about the fact that if any government wants to ban it, I don't want it banned. Because if enough people and this has been okay. In the name of full disclosure, I wrote a book a long time ago. I don't promote it much because the sequel is perpetual stillbirth. But anyway,
and we constantly bother Phil.
But one of the things
I enjoyed it.
But one of the things I wrote in that book, if you remember, was the fact that there were torrent files used because the idea was that once that torrent gets out there and once it reaches a certain amount of spread, that's it. You cannot put the genie back in the bottle. It's too far. It's been decentralized now. It's sitting on too many hard drives, too many places around the world. It can never be scrubbed.
No.
And that's the idea here. Once those files go out, there is no removing them. And the idea that California can just wave a magic wand and say, thou shalt not do things, is just stupid. It indicates to me that these people are either not serious or they're not sophisticated enough to realize that they're trying to play checkers in a chess game.
I think it is both and neither at the same time.
Interesting.
I think that they are not sophisticated enough to truly understand what the internet means. I think that they are not intelligent enough to understand the ramifications of what they have done. But I don't think either one is their personal cause for it. They see themselves as the arbiter, the final decision maker, and they can't comprehend that other people on the internet would just go, well, fuck you, no, I do what I want.
What would these people say if they ever met me, like in person?
Or you,
for that matter.
I don't think they would acknowledge our existence because we are one of the pores. I don't think they would. I don't think that they would deign to acknowledge that you exist. Like, look at what happened when Joe Biden went to that steel plant. The only person he acknowledged was the guy that got up in his face. The rest of the people, they were set dressing. They could have been cardboard cutouts and he wouldn't have noticed the difference. I don't think they consider the people that they govern as individuals. I don't think they consider them as people. They consider them as the set dressing to their power.
That's probably accurate. Couple of comments to go through. Guy that comment said, how are they going to know without violating a dozen laws? Guy that comments, don't you realize that the government can violate the laws that the government made and there are no consequences for the government violating the government's own laws? It's rules for thee, not for me.
Found that we have done nothing wrong.
Precisely. Jeff Jag responded to your comment earlier. Got both mindset. My setup uses the charger.
The charger's
Talking
a better
about the
way to go.
EDM, the EDM probe.
Technically, it's ECM, but
Ah.
that's okay. EDM is slightly different.
EDM is electronic dance music.
No.
Yes.
Electric discharge machining.
I like my answer better. Guy that comments, just don't look up how to make a slam fire and don't look up how to rifle a smooth barrel. So let me just say, we have talked about Expedient Homemade Firearms by P.A. Ludi, and Ludi was a badass.
All I'm saying is, you don't need Ludi. You just need an Ace Hardware that has black steel gas pipe and some 12 gauge slugs.
And I will say, it kills me that I can never remember which manual it is. I've got a whole stack of old field manuals and everything.
TM31?
I don't.
Or is that the explosives one?
I think that might be explosives. Anyway, they're if you do enough Googling and crawling on the internet, and maybe I'll remember, clip this. If someone reminds me, Nick, I'm looking directly at you. If you remind me, I will find which manual it is, and I will make a post on our Instagram.
TM31 called it.
Was it TM31?
TM31 210 Improvised Munitions Handbook.
Okay, I was about to say I've got the manual that talks about like how to make a slamfire 12 gauge, how to make a slamfire. I can't remember if it's a 9mm or 45 ACP, but basically like how to make improvised explosives and firearms. And these manuals were created back in the 60s. The idea that you can ban STL files or 3D printers and you can make people making their own guns go away completely is asinine. You would have to ban, you can't even ban freaking, like, you can't even ban Ace Hardwares, for God's sakes. It doesn't matter. Like, someone has made the point that in order to stop people from making their own guns, you would have to you would have to destroy the knowledge of how guns work.
No, it's worse than that. You would have to ban the knowledge of how pressurized gas works. That is how crude it is.
So because we just have to put all middle school, So we just put all junior high and high school teachers that, like physics teachers or physical science teachers in re-education camps.
And anyone over the age of 5 who's ever shot a spit wad out of a straw. Because let's be honest, it's not that much of a leap behind spit wad, straw, pressurize the air with your mouth. You fired a thing. Well, now you can make a dart gun. Well, what if you increase the pressure? Now you got an air rifle. Well, congrats. You've reinvented the firearm again. Yeah. I mean, you cannot get rid of weapon systems that rely on basic fundamental physics. You can't.
Yeah. But that article I posted earlier, California was trying to be California on the internet.
Oopsie poopsies.
Oopsie poopsies. Control Pew sues California in federal court over 3D printed gun files. A Florida company and its operator filed a federal lawsuit yesterday challenging what they describe as an unconstitutional attempt by California authorities to suppress their online publications about 3D printed firearms and firearms components. The complaint, lodged in U.S. District Court for the Middle District of Florida, in other words, the place that gun control goes to die in most cases, accuses the San Francisco City Attorney and California Attorney General, in other words, assholes, of attempting to enforce state law extraterritorially, I love that word now, against speech created and hosted entirely within Florida. Control Pew just told California, F you, no.
As we all should.
I have to admit, this is probably a slightly more professional version of what I told you my response would have been. Because, like, if I were a Florida citizen and the state of California said, you stop doing that thing on the internet with 3D printed gun files because we said no, I think my response would have been a picture of a baboon's butthole and the words screw off written across it. Because, like, at that point, it's like, come to Florida and have it out with me if you want. My state thinks your gun laws are funny.
Well, that's the interesting thing about California. They seem to think that they make the rules for everyone. Like, worldwide, not just California. And you don't. Not even a little bit, bud. And
I mean,
it's going to be even worse for you once the census doesn't count all the illegals and gives you that many extra electoral college votes.
but call it what it is. California barely makes rules for Californians. I mean,
oh no, they make a ton of rules for Californians, but not for the homeless, not for the illegals, not for the drug addicts, not for the people that break into all of the shipping containers, not for the drug smugglers, not for the people smugglers, not for the child abusers.
But I'm not going to name names, but I will just say that I have it on good authority from several people I know in California that most of you on the internet have probably seen their content before over the years. I have it on good authority from several of them that there are probably more illegal, in air quotes, AR-15s in the state of California than non-California compliant AR-15s in any other state in the country.
I believe that.
That whole state is filled to the freaking brim with guns and gun owners, and most of them don't give a tiny little shit what the attorney general of that backwards her state thinks or legislates. They are not being public about it, and they're apparently can't get enough public support to vote the fat bastards out of office, which annoys me. But suffice to say, when I say things like they barely make rules for California, I mean, they barely make rules for California. Nick, we've talked about what the rate of compliance is in your own home state of Illinois with your own assault weapons ban.
They stopped reporting it when it failed to climb above 4% of what they claim is in the state. Now, Phil, I don't know about you, but I know quite a few guys that like AR-15s and like making their own firearms and building things at home. What do you think the percentage is of people that are seriously in the gun community that have an 80% receiver, even if they haven't finished it? They just picked one up because why not? They're $25 at the time.
Conservative numbers, half.
Mm-hmm. About half probably have an 80% receiver of some ilk stashed away somewhere. Now, how many of those bought a 10-pack?
But remember, we did see that image of somebody that turned a 2x6 into a complete AR-15 receiver. So technically, if you have a lumber pile around your house, you have an 80% lower. But please continue.
I have shot 2 made out of sheet metal tack welded together at different ranges from many years ago.
Didn't it?
Oh, functioned phenomenally. Looked like a shitty Kalashnikov, but my God, it worked. It worked.
I was about to make a joke about what a good Kalashnikov looked like, but I actually like it.
A good Kalashnikov looks like a shitty Kalashnikov that it's just got the paint still left on it. But you know, look. The state of Illinois made a very bold claim for what percentage of Illinois firearms owners they suspected had the weapons that they wanted registered. 4% registered. I think it topped out at 4%.
I don't know about you, but where I come from, a 96% fuck you rate is pretty damning.
That's an overwhelming majority, in my opinion, of a fuck you no. Now, a lot of these people just move their stuff out of state. Fair enough. That is a valid legal response. Move your stuff out of state, store it in a safe and legal place. Fair enough. I know of at least a couple people that did send their stuff to relatives out of state, took it up to relatives out of state, and you know what? Fine. If that is what you want to do, you got to do what you're comfortable with. I don't think 96% of Illinois firearms owners did that, because 96% of us probably don't have friends and family living just across state lines to take the stuff to.
What was the compliance rate for the bump stock ban again?
Less than 4%, around about 4%.
So roundabouts 4%, the same compliance rate you have for your assault weapons ban in Illinois. And I think it's a reasonable expectation that Illinois as a state is probably maybe a touch more liberal leaning than the whole country is, but maybe not much.
Well, no, I would say it probably is. I mean, if you look at the state of Illinois population wise, the majority of the population of the state lives in like basically 2 metro areas.
You could say the same thing for the population of the US.
You can
They
well,
live in a
yeah,
handful of metro areas.
they do. I mean, I think what was it, 2 metro areas, or was it 20 metro areas is like 40% of the state, 40% of the US or something like
Yeah.
that I saw. But yeah, I would say Illinois is on average more liberal than the rest of the country, except
But
for
my point,
maybe some parts of California and New York.
but the point I'm driving towards is same compliance rate.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think U.S. citizens sent their bump stocks to family outside of the country to comply with the law. I suspect a lot of them said, piss off, I'm not doing that.
Yep.
I've said it before, and I will always say, like, y'all have to understand, I am politically homeless. I'm anywhere between like I'm anywhere from a borderline anarchist all the way to a conservative, depending on the topic and the day, and frankly, what mood I'm in. The more aggravated I get, the more I am towards burn it down. And the happier I am, the more I am towards maybe we keep a little bit of the system so my daughter doesn't have to like grow up in Mad Max. I go back and forth. But anyway, but when it comes to discussions about like the politicians passing laws and the people on a whole just say, buzz off, I'm not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the moments in which I get a great big old giant freedom boner, because nothing makes me more excited than when a large cross section of the population says, F you, I'm not doing that.
Yep. Love it.
Like, if the people speak loud and clear, I feel like the government probably ought to listen.
They should. I don't know that they will, because they're the people that pay to keep them elected aren't the ones that are saying no.
Guy that comments, boating popularity has jumped 764% before the ban went into effect.
Amazing how that happens. A lot of canoes sold.
Is that why you want a boat?
I had a canoe. Unfortunately, it flipped over in a river.
That seems suboptimal.
Dude, that's why I have these glasses. I lost a set. So we went canoeing on Mother's Day. It was a very warm Mother's Day. And there was a log jam in the river. And we all kind of ended up flipped out of the boats. And so I had to go get new glasses because I lost my glasses in the river. Whenever you go to the eye doctor, they ask you, so what brought you here today? I wrote, river mugged me and stole my glasses.
Fair.
The look on the receptionist's face was phenomenal.
So yeah, that's been a week on the internet, screaming about the Epstein files, screaming at people on the internet that don't know how body armor works, screaming about government stupidity and malfeasance. But now I feel better. I let it all out. I got my Coke until more due.
There.
Okay.
Better.
Yeah, I feel slightly less annoyed.
Well, I think I'm the same amount annoyed, but I'm buzzed enough to not impede my sleep.
We'll go with that.
Yes. Still very annoyed.
But before we exit out, I have to take a note because I think I might know. Wait a second. What topic was it that? Oh, I know what it was. Raggle wanted us to talk about finance and interest rates next episode.
Finance, interest rates. I believe you mentioned inflation. Inflation's hard.
Inflation's actually not hard. Like I am. That will definitely be a coffee, not a whiskey episode, so that I can like have all my druthers and really focus for the ADHD. Focus the ADHD. But I mean, we can talk that. I was gonna say we should probably bring in an episode about Prepper Library again. Since we were talking about that technical manual, and like there's a ton of information out there that is publicly accessible that you can just Google through and find, that I think is it's interesting at a minimum. It's useful if things get weird, like weirdly weird.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we should probably talk Prepper Library, but probably next episode.
We can do
We'll
that.
we'll grant Raggle Fraggle his wish and talk about fighting inflation. Although I'll totally spoil the next episode for everybody. 90% of what I'm going to talk about when you get into a discussion about fighting inflation is like it's an ounce of prevention, pound of cure situation.
Yep.
Especially once you start talking about interest-bearing debt, it is always easier to stay out of it than to get out of it.
Oh my gosh, yes.
But that being said, I will say that I am not a financial advisor. I have given friends, believe it or not, like patrons in some cases, who come talk to me offline. I'll never violate their confidence by outing them, saying, "Hey, this person came talk to me." That was a private conversation between friends, and I gave friendly advice.
Mm-hmm.
But like I've talked to some people about like, this is what I would do. These are your options, and some of them have actually implemented that and gotten themselves out of a bad situation.
And you know, sometimes what it takes is having that friend that is not emotionally invested in the situation, that can take a mathematical look at the equation, because that's really what managing debt is a mathematical equation. But man, my God, if you are up to your ears in it and barely scraping by, it is a hard thing to do, to pull yourself emotionally out of that situation, to look at it analytically.
I will just say, as we roll this out and I start doing some prep work for next week, that any discussion that talks about getting out of debt, about finances, about financial planning, the two things I always tell everybody is that if you allow rational decisions to get supplanted by emotions, by I want or I deserve, you're already in the wrong direction.
Yep.
And the other problem is, the minute impatience starts to break into this conversation, you're already going in the wrong direction. Because like everything about finance, dude, it's playing the long game. It's marathon
it
versus
really
sprint.
is. Even if there is a fast solution to the problem,
There isn't.
it will create long-term problems down the road that you will then also have to deal with.
Let me just say, and so first of all, there is no short-term solution to managing finances or planning for retirement or anything else. The only two variables that matter are rate of return and risk.
Yep.
If you want short term, you want high rate of return, which means high risk. There is no low risk, high rate of return. It doesn't exist. Anybody that tells you it does is trying to sell you something or screw you out of your money. So
it's a scam.
Yeah. So the only way to get really, really, really fast wealth growth is with really, really, really high risk. And the problem is, I have never met a single person that has the self-control to bet the farm, win, and take their money off the table and go home.
They always double down.
They always double down because they think, "Oh, I got lucky. I can get lucky again," and then they end up broken.
You know what?
Like,
maybe you're Zuckerberg. Maybe you've started Facebook. Double down till the cows come home, buddy. But
the problem
how many
is,
of those people are there in the country?
Well, for every one Mark Zuck, there's 10,000 people who flamed out, crashed, and burned. So that's just why I tell everybody, like this, the surest way to beat the finance game is to commit to the idea that it is going to take a lifetime of work.
Yep.
And if you commit to that, then you can grind it out and you can win. Or like guy that comments says, he said gambling, which...
Well, that is high risk and moderate return, usually.
Yeah, I mean, all I'm going to say is, like, truthfully, investing in the stock market or even in a 401k is also gambling. It's just gambling with a lower risk profile.
I wish that I could say that was wrong, but it's not.
You could bring an argument to me next week and see if you can talk me out of it. But I don't
have one because it's just a stock market that pays you interest on the chips you hold. That's all it is. And the longer you hold the chips, the better you do.
I was in college 20 years ago getting a business and finance degree, bud. I am jaded enough to admit that it is a casino, and smart enough to realize there's a way to play it as safe as possible.
You know, what really set it home for me was, and if you didn't grow up on the internet, you wouldn't have seen this, but every once in a while, any social media platform, you'll see the guy that has a chicken. And this guy will love playing the stock markets. You know what he'll do? He'll feed the chicken and he'll write a bunch of stock ticker symbols on a sheet, put it on the ground. And whatever one the chicken poops on, that's the stock he buys. The chicken will, on average, match what some of the index funds do and occasionally do better. And if a chicken pooping on things is just as good as buying index funds, it's a casino. I don't care what you want to tell me.
No, it is, but we'll save that for next week. We're not going to give out financial advice, and we're not giving out stock tips.
No.
But if we want to have a discussion about like how to beat inflation, my views on how to get ahead of things, some of it's going to sound kind of Dave Ramsey or Caleb Hammer, but that's because to me, the principles of like finance and economics have not drastically altered since I've been alive.
Well, it's a lot like dieting. The correct answers are often simple, boring, but extremely difficult.
Yep. There is no free lunch. No. And if somebody's offering you one, they're trying to sell you something else. Mm-hmm. But anyway, Matter of Fact's podcast is going to head out the door. It is 9 p.m. on the button. I am going to sleep like a baby after this. We still need a bourbon sponsor, and I won't stop until we get one. But we'll talk to y'all another week. Good night, everybody.
Night.